Hello, starting today with Saturn through houses, and I'm going to just do this generic video. The first one will be all about what is Saturn really all about. So Saturn is one of the most important planets in Vedic astrology, in the sense that it deals at our karma. So wherever Saturn is, it's basically where we're paying our karma to the world in our natal chart. Obviously, do always bear in mind that despite the fact that you're born with a certain placements, but actually every dashas are planetary periods which are very unique to Vedic astrology. Your chart changes, even though the underlying thing is your D1 or your natal chart, but really is on top of it during those years that that particular planet is ruling your life. You're doing more, you can read your chart from there, so this could change according to that. But this, obviously we know that the natal chart is literally the flavor of what we are. But I'm sure we all see that we definitely change every year when we are younger, and every decade or so we change dramatically as well as we work through our karmas. And some karmas, we work through and basically it's done, so it doesn't mean that we're going to be repeating those issues again and again. This is one of the most important things as well to know, is that for Saturn is very strong in the 7th house, because it's planet of community, other people, marriage, commitment. Therefore, if you have a difficult issues, difficult Saturn in your chart, it's really good to work on. I mean, if you have got a strong Venus, then that's fine. And also if you've got strong Jupiter, that's very good too. But Venus and Saturn, really, they rule all the most important houses in the chart, which is 2nd house and 7th house of Venus, and 10th and 11th house of the natural zodiac are ruled by Saturn. So Saturn for us is the planet, we always look at it from Aries Ascendant. It rules 10th house of career, karma and status, and 11th house, which is house of gains, and house of elder sibling. So it's a wealth and work. For Venus is 2nd house of family, savings, values, self-love, and 7th house of relationships and working with the others. So when they get together, this is how relationships are built, basically, because if you've got a good Venus and good Saturn, you really work at it. And so if you're finding that in your chart, your Saturn is very strong and it holds you back, or it's very weak, when it's very weak, like a debilitated Saturn, it's really, particularly in the 1st or 7th house, it can be quite difficult, because the person only ever sees the lack. They can give up on things before even start it. Therefore, it's quite good to work on Saturn. Saturn is literally hard work, putting your back into it and getting results. And the moment you do it with Saturn never ever denies you anything, but it wants you to deliver, and it wants you to be consistent and persistent. So let's go through some of the things to do with Saturn. Saturn is monotony. It's routine. Responsibility is our duty, commitment, fear, worry, seriousness, actually having lack, feeling the lack for anything. Maturity, reliability is humanitarian. It's unhappiness, discipline. It likes fairness, really, in everything. Wherever it sits in our chart, that part of our life, we're always very hard on ourselves. And it's rules it's dry and it's stressful. It rules kind of laws of the land. Sometimes even the unspoken laws will be to do with Saturn. It's like planet of humbleness and integrity, really. It's rules and regulations. It's respected, respect and respecting others, basically. It's always seeing what is not done. So you could have a list, and person who's got a good Venus, they think, okay, I had 10 things on my list. I did 2. Excellent. I now deserve a cup of tea. And they go and treat themselves, and there's no guilt attached. Well, it's very different for Saturn. Saturn is always guilt-driven. So therefore, it's like, even if they did 2 jobs and they were massively busy and there were big jobs to do in a day, they is still hard on themselves that they didn't do the other 8. So their view of life is very much like glass half empty. But they are loyal, hardworking. As I said, they love a routine. They like everything to be just so. Steadfast. They that term, talk the talk, walk the walk. They probably even don't even talk, but they certainly walk the walk, because they're not really having Saturn on your first house. It kind of limits everything. It can, wherever it's sitting, it kind of contracts that. It also rules elderly people, sick or disabled people. It's longevity. It's also death, delays, isolation, community, and above everything else is service. So these are all the indications of Saturn. So what we do now, we'll go through and do it through the houses. Saturn is friendly with Venus, very good friends with Venus, and also with Mercury. And it also does pretty well with Ketu, but it's definitely not friendly with the Sun or the Moon, or even Mars, although Mars is neutral with Saturn. And Rahu as well. Rahu, Saturn are not good together either. So this is how you can see. So you can see that Saturn is going to do really well in own sign, rules Capricorn, and rules Motricona sign, which is like the head office sign. It's very strong. Is in the 11th house of the natural zodiac, which is house of kind of groups, networks, likes to be with other people and actually contributing to everything. And it's exalted in Libra and debilitated in Mars. Exalted in the sign of other people, marriage, committing, working with other people, and diplomacy. But sign of Aries, which is all about me, myself, and I, is not happy there, because obviously it's a sign of me being singular, and also sign of Mars, which is an enemy to it considers Mars as an enemy. And so we just want to kind of like, this is one of those things that when you have a weak Saturn in your chart, you really it's very hard to get a grip of life, and things for people will be seriously delayed, and people, like mothers and fathers, could start worrying about the child because they just feel as though they are not really grasping things in life and solidifying anything. And also it can make the child very worryful as well. So I find that when Saturn is in your first house, in your 7th house, it's your Atmakarka, or is sitting with your Ascendant Lord, the child, everything for the child will be delayed. They'll be more stressed than normal. They'll be very dutiful. They always worry. They have this fear. So as a mother, it's very important to just like have compassion for them, because these children are real humanitarian. If they are really looked after and nurtured, so they can actually there's that trust thing going on, then you do well and they do well too. And so don't literally, be aware that they are not sometimes, it could be that, I'm not saying this every person, it depends on the chart, but don't they feel the pain of anything, because obviously they feel as though if they didn't do very well in a test, or you know, they didn't do a job to the way their parents wanted to, they carry this terrible guilt, and they feel as though they let you and the family down, so they already suffer with a lot of guilt anyway. So it's really good when we are kind of, even with, if you have a partner who has like, or you know, children, siblings, friends and everything else, we just got to realize, you know, that's where they're coming from. It's really, really important. So anyway, let's talk about the Saturn through signs, through houses. Thank you. Saturn has special aspects. It's obviously where it's sitting. It always, like all other planet aspects, 7 houses away. It also has special aspects, which is 3rd house and 10 houses away. The house that it's actually 3 houses away, but you always count so if it was in the 1st house, so you count 1st, 2nd, 3rd. So 3rd house will be where you'll be putting the effort in. So 3rd house is away from where it's sitting, and then 10 houses away from it, which is where you're paying karma to the world for from Saturn's viewpoint. So it's not necessarily you know, for some people who've got like Saturn in the 5th house, is, you know, 10 houses from that is not going to be necessarily your work one, but nonetheless though, it's something that you're paying karma on the world too. Okay, let's make a start on this. Saturn in the 5th house. This is clearly an important house in the sense that it is a trinal house. It's in the natural zodiac, it will be like Leo. And so there are fixed nature to this, even though it could be for you like maybe a movable sign or whatever. But natural zodiac sign is Leo, and it's not friendly to Saturn. And Saturn is naturally a malefic, so wherever it sits, it's going to create some issues there. More than anything, what Saturn gives us is delays. It gives us lack, and dries that house up. So we know that. So obviously when we go into this, we know that there's going to be a delay in romantic nature of the person. And this also going to mean that you will have children slightly later. In fact, if you have this, if Saturn is ever in signs to do with 1st sign, 7th house, 2nd house, 11th house, 5th house, 4th house, many houses actually, it is going to delay. And if it does give you that early, it's going to create some form of issue. So you have to really dig deep and work with it, because Saturn always gives you fruits at the end, but it's obviously a malefic, and it's kind of like, glass is always half full, you know, that kind of thing. And there's a nervousness and anxiety and fear attached to that sign, house, you know, whatever. Anyway, let's go through the indications of the 5th house, and then we go through the ascendants. So obviously sports, games, being playful, all parts of this, because this is a house of creativity, fun. It's also your academic education. So whereas you had like 4th house is like primary school, and this is now maybe secondary school. It's house of creativity, which is so important. I can't really stress how important creativity is, because human beings, humankind are creative. You give somebody a seed, little bit of water and soil, they can create, they can grow things that look beautiful, or give vegetables and fruits. We are actually, I can't even tell you how this, you know, how important creativity is, and how it can be envy of people too. So, you know, this is a house, although it's going to delay this, nonetheless there's still a house of creativity. And just before, I know I've said this in the previous one, this is a Saturn with no aspects, no conjunctions. We're just going to do the 5th house Saturn. Children are our most important creative thing that we actually do. I mean, they're amazing. They are our legacy, and the 5th house is legacy. It's film, entertainment, cinema, partying, It's dating, romance, political views, politics, royalty, stock market, investment, advice, students, and purva punya, which is like your good luck from previous life. So it's very, very important sign. It's 2 houses away from your 4th house, so it's your mom's resources. It's looking at your 11th house. It's also aspecting by 3rd aspecting your 7th house, and by 10th aspect your 2nd house. So this is very much to do with partnerships, family, getting married. So this house is very, very important. And when Saturn sits there, obviously it's creating all these opportunities. Now, if you have a weak Saturn, generally speaking, and a weak Saturn, you'll know because it'll be the Ashtaka Varga, the score will be low, and for the house, for the sign, and also you'll know because Shadbala will be low. And also, this is a person who never really perseveres, never really gives the length of time. You know, they plant something, then need it to grow the next day. They are not patient. And this is, you know, Saturn is all about patience, allowing things to mature. So this is the if you go with Saturn and do Saturn things, you can always gain from it, because it will give you get the rewards for a bit later. So that's what I think when you get married, when between 32 and 36, that's a really good age. It's maturity age for Saturn. Anyway, so clearly it's going to the person is going to be shy about dating, about romance. It's going to be a bit fearful. And when they have children, they're going to be really kind of strict with their children, or your parents were strict with you. This goes both ways, and so they're quite serious. Everything about this house, or the indications, will be a little bit kind of, you know, I will have fun when I've done this. When I've done this, I will do this. So this is Saturn, honestly, and I should know. I've got a strong Saturn in my, you know, everything about me is like, I'll do this when I do that. It's just, you just deny yourself fun, enjoyment, you know, all that kind of thing. But, you know, I'm quite lucky, you know, my Jupiter is good, but oh dear, I can't even imagine really. So yeah, it is. And you know, there are some people who say, oh, I love Saturn. Well, I've got no choice but to love Saturn, you know, that kind of thing. But I wouldn't want to not do things that Saturn do, because what Saturn does gives you really, really good, firm foundations, and you can't beat that really, because you can have a lot of things, but if the foundations are not strong, it's all going to topple. Whereas Saturn is building your life from foundation up, so it's secure. Hallelujah to that. Anyway, so everything becomes like a duty. I have a duty to be educated. I have a duty to have a relationship and have children. I have a duty now because society expects me to have 2 children. I have a duty. You know, it's that kind of thing, you know. But there could be issues, again, to do with education, to do with children. This all depends on the ascendant, on the aspects from on the degrees as well, because obviously wherever it is, it's going to be different in the D9. So all kinds of things can change this. And Saturn obviously being exalted or debilitated make a difference too. So these are all the things to consider. So let's have a look at excuse me. The other thing is as well, obviously it gives a very, very responsible, mature way of thinking about life generally, and that could impact the children too. So they could feel your vibes about things, and they could pick up on that energy, and they could become so that they want to please you in that sense. They find that it's difficult for them to enjoy things because they sense, you know, children read frequency. We're all frequency and energy, and obviously we've been, you know, because of our lives are very much all to do about like working, paying taxes. We don't really realize that, but children, you know, they pick up on those things. So it's very important if you want to have a child who, maybe if you are that way, very Saturnian, and you want your child to be different, it's just like really from the moment you're thinking about having a child, just really go with the flow of life, really enjoy life. I'm just going to check my internet. It's like really, it shouldn't be. Anyway, so yeah, so the child could be quite serious, quite mature. You know, they would be like, say, my daughter is a bit like that, so I call her Safety Sally, and I'm Safety Sally mummy. You know, so the way they hold your hands, crossing the roads, it's just be, you know, checking the door when you leave 100 times to just make sure it's locked. It is that, it's got that kind of thing. But, you know, what I want to say about this, that we all have an inner child. So in order to be fun, you know, this is House of Fun. This is your heart is here. And this is House of Leo. Leo is all about love, being in love, romance, being in a relationship. They love that. This is the sun, you know, so they're looking for their queen, or the queen looking for their king. So it's so important to just like really connect with your inner child, really allow that creativity come out, let yourself radiate like the sun in order to get a really good relationship and in order to just have fun with your child. This is all about like creativity. Like if they're learning piano, let's, you know, after the lesson, let's, you know, have a break, but why don't you practice with them, do things with them, you learn from the child and you play all the songs that they like, you know, they enjoy, jolly things. So important. And all of these things, the more you put into this, the more you get out. It's naturally the way Saturn is. Anyway, enough of me. Let's look at the, let me just see if I wrote any more, because I did write some notes. Yeah. So somehow living and experiencing life till 30s. It's really, that's what I mean. So it's better to have everything a bit later. So experience life, have your experiences, learn from those experiences, so that, you know, when you go through experiences, you realize that you need to lighten up about things. That's what I definitely learned a lot about myself. And then it makes you stronger. So when you work on houses within your chart that are weak, it just means that what you do by working on them, you create that house becomes strong, but the house opposite also benefits from it. And opposite from 5th house is 11th house. And who wouldn't want to have gains and be with groups and networks that are just like uplifting, really good friends and things. So always listen to your inner child. So it's all okay part of the day to be all serious and ticking sort of things off your list, but you know, life is not all about that. So if you're cooking, make sure you have music on, make sure it's all, everything is about experience. And Leo is very much about the experience, because the whole entertainment, enjoyment, partying, you know, having all those like fancy dress parties, you know, just really going to town is important. The good thing is as well, because you have Saturn in House of Romance, they can commit, these people. Relationships are very important to them, because what happens from there is aspecting 7th house by the 3rd aspect of Saturn. And Saturn's 3rd aspect is about putting effort into something. So they're going to put an effort into by putting, you know, really working at the romance, dating scene, partying, and just enjoying life. Then you put effort also into your into being with somebody, having a relationship and a marriage. And then because of that, if you go into a relationship like that, keep it going. So your marriage, you know, the whole dating and all of that it goes as it should, as Leo, which is amazing. And then 7th aspect is obviously 11th house of gains. And gains is not just 11th house, it's gain of anything. Gaining a house, gaining, like, you know, 11th house will be activated when major things in our lives will come into fruition, if you like. So if you want to gain, you know, and actually being with somebody, and the more you people, when they put effort into their relationships, they naturally, what they do, they uplift themselves, uplift their spouse. So it just creates more wealth generally. Even if your spouse doesn't work, wouldn't matter, because there's somebody supporting you. So it just means that your load is halved. So that's, again, it's a gain. It's a gain, it's a saving, and it's good for your values. So again, from there is aspect in your second house of family values, valuing myself, my choices, my food choices, my word choices, all of those, how you choose your words of wisdom helps your relationships, helps your children, and helps your friendships. So I rest my case on that one. Right, and and you don't want to be a very serious and very strict parent, really. So it's all duty. So you got to go to school, and I know you're tired, but don't worry, because you got class, and after you finish that class, you got that class, because we're keeping up with the Joneses. That would be Saturn being a parent, so it's really nice to just, when children are creative, so and yourself, if you have time away from the whole tada of life, going on a break, holiday or something, your creativity comes back. You come back, even though you're tired traveling back, you're kind of thinking, oh yes, I'm now I feel as though I was inspired by the scenery or something. Maybe I start painting, or I like the how that person had decorated, that wall in the hotel. So I'm gonna, it kind of kicks in your creativity. So that is more important, to actually just put the creativity in your inner child, and that will then help your relationship, children, and that also, this is house of investments and stocks and shares and stock market, speculative things, gaming, stuff like that. I mean, I don't really like things like that, or gambling, but nonetheless, though, you have the opportunities with that if your chart is good for it. And so wherever Saturn sits, it could give dryness in that area. So you don't want to. You want to do Venusian things, because Venus being Saturn's friend. So Venus is planet of watery planets, so it can actually life is about moisture. Moisture is the situation where plants grow, animals, we all need hydration. So naturally, work, play go hand in hand, and rest. Work, rest, and play. All three of them are most important. And remembering also that this is house of legacy. So, and children are legacy, memories are legacy as well. Memories and photographs, again, fifth house stuff. Memories of good times, kindness are things that we want to remember. So the more you invest into that, in yourself, in your spouse, and in your children, how important is that? That's wonderful. That's how you enjoy things. And it could just be also that you connect with your friends and you go to games, watch volleyball or football together, and then as your children get older, you can do the same with them. Or you go to festivals together, you all dress up, with flowers in your hair and peace sign going on. So this is all about fifth house. Anyway, I better get on with ascendants. Okay, so ascendants for Saturn in the fifth house is very strange, because today is the 9th of May 2022, and we have Moon in Magha in Leo, which is Leo is as heritage as you can get, your lineage for sure. And Sun, the dispositor, is actually exalted in Aries. So for Aries ascendant, who are just having a wonderful time currently, having an exalted Sun in their first house, fifth house ruler in the first house, magic. Anyway, for you guys, having Saturn in your fifth house will be Saturn, which is 10th and 11th house ruler in your fifth house. Obviously, this is going to be, your fifth house is Leo, it's unfriendly sign to Saturn. This is going to definitely give the person some issues with your back, just stiffness, stiffness and all that kind of stuff. So you need to look after your physique and not take on too much work. When you have too much work, you book yourself in for a massage. It's so important, because like really making sure that you work with your chart. Now, it's also, Saturn is aspecting the 11th house of gains and rules that sign, so it protects the 11th house, which is amazing. From there also, the third aspect will be aspecting the Libra, which is this exaltation sign. Absolutely outstanding. So this is going to be really nice. And also the other house that is aspecting as well, which will be your second house, is again another house that's ruled by Venus. So, but what it means though, Saturn being aspecting the second house, which is also the sign that Moon is exalted in as well. So, but what will happen with this one, is obviously with the second house, just for everybody, is it would just mean that, you know, like you like to have the resources for the family, antiques and things as well. You like to keep the heirlooms in your family and pass them on as a lineage thing, you know, pass the ring, for example, grandma's ring onto the bride-to-be in the family, that kind of thing. So it's going to be pretty amazing. But they kind of hoard family heirlooms, because both Leo and second house are, and also 11th house, they are fixed signs, so they keep their gains, keep their, you know, they like to just know that there's a certain amount of money in the bank account. They want to make sure that, you know, they are, and also the child is going to have the supreme type of, they are more likely to have, if they have the money, to have private schooling. And they will be also, their friends will be influential, humanitarian. They'll be working in really important kind of jobs, organizations, that kind of thing. And the third house, they like a partner that has got really good social skills, quite charming, because, you know, this is where Saturn is exalted, and also is Venus's more friendly sign, if you like. So, but yeah, they're very, very family oriented, this kind of thing. So now I'm just going to move this. Taurus Ascendant. For Taurus Ascendant, their fifth house is Virgo. So Virgo is Venus itself is actually debilitated. Saturn is there. Saturn is in friendly sign. So that's really good. And this is a Yoga Karaka planet, 9th and 10th house ruler in the 5th house. So it creates really nice Raja Yoga. And so so you can see that, you know, generally speaking, anything to do with the 5th house that we discussed earlier, they're going to be very picky about it. So they're going to try to micromanage their child. They're going to be strict on their child. So this is like, to actually have a really good relationship with your partner or with your children, it's really, really important to just like bear in mind that, you know, to be creative, to allow all of those wonderful things to be creativity, romance, and just wonderful punya of to come in. You need to really kind of stop micromanaging your child, stop being so strict, and, you know, just watch their every move, allow them space to be creative, because these children are going to be amazing. They're going to be able to play multiple, if you just allow them to be creative, they can play different types of instruments. They're going to be good at sports. They're going to just like try and excel at everything. But in the process, you don't want to get themselves ill, because obviously it's 6th house of natural zodiac, and you don't want to get yourself into debt as well, because again, this is Virgo after all. But what intelligence it gives you, because this is definitely the sign that's all about intellect, practicality, and or being organized. So these children are going to be so organized, but obviously they're going to have some form of childhood too. So as I said, it's not just about your child, it's about your own childhood too, maybe. But we have more control over things going forward than what has happened already. And from there, Saturn is obviously aspecting the 7th house, which is going to be Scorpio. So we already know that there may be some form of secretive thing going on about the marriage. Maybe they get married without telling the family. They go secretly, elope somewhere and get married. And then from there also aspecting what would be Pisces. So they could have friends abroad, friends that they met when they were on holidays, long distance travel, or very, very spiritually aware and charitable friends. And the family, from there, obviously, Saturn will be aspecting the 2nd house, which is again another one of the signs for Mercury. So this will be like the family, generally speaking, the communication between the family will be good anyway. They just, even though Saturn kind of delays things and everything, they do communicate with each other pretty well. They're able to leave notes for each other, little messages here and there, you know, or via the telephone to let each other know. But generally speaking, this is a good placement for what would be the Yogacaraka planet, and it's in a friendly sign. It's just that with Virgo, we need to always, there are certain signs in the zodiac that we all got to just be a bit more aware of them. I'm sorry if this video is sticking. It's showing that internet is okay, but I can see the video sticking. For Virgo Ascendant, for you, Saturn rules what would be 8th and 9th house. So 8th house, although it's the Dushtana house, the difficult house, however, it doesn't spoil any form of yoga or anything like that. So you know that when it goes into your 5th house, Saturn will be exalted. And 9th house, so obviously this person will be highly educated, even if they have breaks in there because 8th house issues. However, they want to excel. They do really well at studying and achieving that kind of thing. From there, Saturn is aspecting what would be like 7th house, which is Sagittarius. They like to be with somebody who is from similar sort of religious background to them, or belief system as them. And obviously the other house that is aspecting as well is Aries, and this is also where Saturn is debilitated too. So they could kind of have friends that they either connect, or they could have friends can come in or out of their life too, and their gains will be a little bit like that too, because it's fast house. They could speculate without thinking, because obviously that's Aries, and then what happens is they lose money. Luckily Saturn here is exalted, so it will be much more aware. And then it's also aspecting the 2nd house, which will be Cancer. And I always think that we have to really be kind when, you know, like whenever Saturn has an influence on the 2nd house, or well, not necessarily just 2nd house, but particularly Cancer, whether it's in, you know, like we've just experienced this in, you know, Saturn has only just come out of Capricorn, and for just over 2 years it was aspecting Cancer, and the whole world was fearful for that long. And sometimes it's not even real, but because it's Saturn, it will give you that fear. You know, it's like some people just think, like I used to think, like, oh, like my partner, like really scared of heights. Never tried it, but scared of heights. I mean, it could be a past life thing too, but it is amazing, really. And obviously from there, aspect in the 2nd house. So this is a very emotional and sensitive family, and you need to just kind of, for them, like family is important. They're emotionally connected to their family, and therefore the whole like family get-togethers, nice food, all of those are very much to do with bringing all those wonderful memories of family and closeness with them. Then for Cancer Ascendant. Cancer Ascendant's 5th house is Saturn in Scorpio. And Saturn for them rules 8th and 7th house. When it is in Scorpio, obviously it's not a friendly sign. Saturn struggles there. This is quite deep waters too, so it could kind of give issues, obviously, with children here, because this is 8th house of natural zodiac. So it could be that they get pregnant out of wedlock, or they could have an issue with one of the pregnancies. It doesn't deny it though. You know, obviously you have to see where K2 and Mars are, and always check Jupiter too. Jupiter is the significator of children. So anyway, yeah, so just got to be cautious, that if you were not planning a pregnancy, just make sure you're aware of that kind of thing. Nonetheless though, when it comes to doing the education thing and getting the information they need for their thesis or whatever, they have got they will spend hours and hours researching. They're hard grafters, really, in that sense. From there is also aspect in the 7th house will be Capricorn. So you know that for these people, it's obviously 7th house ruler in the 5th house create a lovely Raja Yoga, and being an 8th house ruler is not going to be in any way actually damaging this. Having that aspect on the 7th house, is going to protect the 7th house of marriage, and also their spouse is going to be highly successful. Getting married makes them and their spouse very, very high achieving couple, very powerful couple. And obviously from there is going to be aspect in also the 11th house, and the 11th house will be for them will be Taurus. So this is going to be nice. It's a sign that friendly to Saturn, and it's a natural 2nd house of the zodiac, so it's got good connotations. There's the possibility of actually having good gains is pretty good if they just take the time and actually research everything. Don't leave anything any rock unturned, if you like. And for them, 2nd house will be Leo. And so that their family are of quite noble family of integrity, because also Saturn's 10th aspect is very community aware. For Leo ascendant, 5th house is going to be Sagittarius. So this is now 6th and 7th house ruler in the 5th house. Clearly there could be it's obviously, first of all, it's going to be Raja Yoga, 7th house ruler in the 5th house. It does get spoiled because 6th house can spoil these yogas. However, it does get better with time. So through just being they might do for example, things like speculations, buy shares and invest in something that it doesn't work out and they have some losses. Or having a child could actually cause them some kind of debt, or their education can cause them a debt, or create some enemies. That kind of thing can be the theme. And it could be that also the spouse, a spouse is very service oriented, that kind of thing. But generally speaking, this is not, Saturn doesn't do too badly in Sagittarius in Jupiter signs because they're neutral towards each other. But the fact that it's 6th house, it could be you got to check your own health and the child's one. Make sure you don't get yourself into really massive debt. Having your education, just be aware of that. And obviously from there, Saturn is going to be aspecting the 11th house, which is going to be Gemini. And obviously, this is friendly sign as well. So it's going to be pretty good. They're going to have nice groups of friends, because this is natural 3rd house, the Zodiac, and it's that 11th house. So they probably have got quite a lot of really good friends. They're in contact with each other constantly as well. And then obviously 2nd house, which is going to be Virgo. So yeah, there could be arguments in the family because it's 6th house ruler. It could be that they, with their friends, with the 11th house, with their friends, they might like to do competitive sports, that kind of thing. Or they could be quite competitive with the elder sibling. With this though, being the 6th house ruler also aspecting the 2nd house, so there could be some discord or some difficulties in the family, that kind of thing. So things that can be easily rectified, because obviously it's another friendly sign that is aspecting, and Saturn always, because it's the 10th aspect, is going to dealing with it in terms of like doing some form of service in the community as a family, being generous. I don't really particularly, give to like just giving money. It's really nice to be accountable, because it's as easy charity, just giving money, but actually really looking after somebody within your community. If you have problems or illness in your family, that's a really good way to just work through your karmas. Or getting a pet, even if you're like, or even helping with animal rescue, things like that. Do some voluntary work, but definitely be careful with your education costs, things like that. Now for Virgo ascendant, Saturn in the 5th house is Saturn in own sign, is 6th and 5th house ruler. So nice and strong. This is a really strong house, but this also means that the expectations of the children is huge, because this is like upward looking, and Saturn in as we know, Saturn in because we've just had it, like in 2020 to 2022, we've had Saturn for over 2 years in Capricorn. It's not easy, so you want to be like easy on your children, because they already feel very responsible for everything, these poor kiddies. And they so just be aware, and there's an expectation that I'll spend the money on your education. Now you have to go and really get the job and be successful. So there is and they feel the same too. They feel as though their education has got to pave the way for them to be quite successful, and they will achieve it definitely with that kind of thing. It is also aspect in Saturn, so there's like Cancer. So this can be like again, it can make the person, I think Saturn, when it's sitting in Cancer or aspecting in Cancer, it can kind of make the person a little bit insecure, a little bit like feeling as though things are like, there's always they have to work that much harder at things. They're just that much more into having stability. So, but anyway, it's own sign, so it's very good. From there, obviously, it's going to be aspecting Pisces, the 7th house. So they're looking for a partner that is really kind of charitable, very spiritual, very forgiving, very creative, very imaginative, and they also might meet them traveling, that kind of thing. And obviously, it's also aspecting 2nd house, which will be its exaltation sign. So there's just this undying love and cooperation within the family. They're working together. They're just harmonious. They're just peaceful family. Have fun. It's just like one of those houses that you walk into and you think, oh, it feels like home. Feels so cozy and so welcoming. For Libra ascendant, 5th house will be Saturn, Yogacaraka planet, rules 4th and 5th house. Now in the 5th house, wonderful Raja Yoga, very strong, Multrikona sign too, and Saturn in this sign is going to be much more, it's just a different type of Saturn. It's much more forgiving, much more liberal in this thinking. Liberal, I don't mean the way that they be using the word liberal now in terms of politics. No. Freedom loving. Let's forget about liberal, but much more like sharing with everyone, really genuinely different to the Capricorn. So here is very nice setting. Also, it's aspect in the 11th house of Leo, which is from there. It just means that the respect that they get from their friends is unbelievable. Wonderful, influential groups of friends, their elder sibling, that kind of thing. And because it's House of Gains and it's original 5th house, the Zodiac, and it's also, it's a fixed sign, they will have really good gains, and they probably can keep them too. Then for second house will be, also Saturn will be aspecting Scorpio. So it just means that there is some secrets about the family wealth, that kind of thing is not normally discussed, or that kind of thing with everybody else. So there are some secrets. They're quite, private family, I would say. Not necessarily always secret, but they're just quite private. For Scorpio ascendants, Saturn will be the third and fourth house ruler in the fifth house. So it creates Raja Yoga. It is also using, rules third house, which is house of like, it's like an Upachaya house. It does also get better with time too, but this is also a house of creativity, third house. So it makes one very, very expressive. Great orator, great at expressing with imagination. When they speak, they really are inspiring. They probably make fantastic advisors, really. Just amazing and inspirational too. And because this is also a sign where Venus is exalted, so brilliant. For Scorpio, then it's aspecting the 11th house, which is going to be Virgo. So they're going to have really, really intellectual friends, or elder sibling is very, and they're very good at kind of practically and, navigate through their finances, gains, things like that. They calculate things quite well. Also aspecting 7th house, which will be putting effort into things to do with relationships and stuff like that. So friendly sign is his natural second house, the Zodiac Taurus. Lovely. And the second house will be for them, will be Sagittarius. So clearly this is going to be, the whole family will be quite educated, well-travelled, cultured, quite religious, the family. They can have they're very respectful of the religion that they have come into, and the highly respected family. And then for Sagittarius ascendant, fifth house will be Saturn, that's debilitated in Aries. Saturn will be the second and third house ruler in the fifth house, debilitated. And just the fact that it's the second house ruler in the fifth house, it's going to, so you really have to put an effort into making this Saturn strong, because Saturn is second house, is house of money, but house of values, house of resources. So make good choices. So, the Saturn, when it's debilitated, any planet that's debilitated, it doesn't kind of, it can be hasty about making decisions, and it could be that repeats wrong patterns. And, this is like going to be a Saturn that's an impulsive sign. So it does things like goes and buys stocks and shares without thinking. Can I afford it? Can I afford to lose this money? Is this company? What is the bottom thing about this? They don't get the information. So it's very important to just really look at your finances with this one, because obviously this is it's also aspect in the second house, but it's debilitated. It's a debilitated planet. Even though their family could be quite successful, but it could be that there could be some losses there too. So it's very, very important to just check that. Again, that quick action, not thinking, they could sign up for a course for their education that gets them into trouble. So a lot of caution will be good. It is, though, at the end of the day, they are going to have really lovely friends, very sociable friends, good networks and things like that. And if they just do things not so hastily, things will work out just fine. You also got to see where Saturn goes in your D9, because it's not necessarily always debilitated. Then we have Saturn is also aspecting Gemini, which is the seventh house ruler, seventh house. And so that's nice and friendly sign. Is putting lots of effort into the partner, communicating with the partner, other people at work. And communication will be a key to their relationship and key to their success at work. and that will probably uplift. But anyway, this will get better with time, with some of the experiences when they, I think sometimes we have to get ourselves into a little bit of a sticky situation, work our way out of that situation, and then we have the tools, more tools for life in our toolbox. So yeah, so it's aspecting Capricorn second house, it's aspecting Virgo for 11th house, and also aspecting Gemini, as I said. Right, so on to Capricorn now. Capricorn for you, when Saturn is in the 5th house, is Saturn in Taurus. And again, this kind of slows everything down to do with family and children. It is a friendly sign, but because this is 2nd house natural zodiac, it is kind of really, you have to work on Venus a little bit to uplift this, because it's the dispositor if you find that you're not getting what you want. But otherwise, this is going to be Saturn sitting in very important trinal house there, in friendly sign. And from there is aspecting obviously 7th house, which is going to be Saturn's aspect on Capricorn, Cancer, and that just means that they could just they've got to be sensitive because their partner, Cancerians are quite sensitive people. They're quite emotionally bruised if you don't say the right word. So they got to be careful how they can't. If your partner, they attract not necessarily Cancer ascendants, but Cancerian type. So they need to just be they need to dress up their words in order to communicate. And they can do that, there's no reason why not. So, and using words that are, nice communication, don't rush things with this, because this is a Cancerian, you're actually putting effort into this relationship, will be through words, through consistency, and they will love that. A Cancerian type person would love that nice nurturing words, because they're comforting. And then from there is also aspecting obviously what would be the 11th house. From there will be Scorpio, so the friends could be friends with secret society, that kind of thing. So, and then also is aspecting 2nd house, which is own sign. So this will be aspecting Aquarius, really as a fixed sign. So this is really good for money for sure. And because they could suddenly gain friends and lose friends, or gain, have gains. They'll be able to actually save it pretty well because of how it's also aspecting the 2nd house. Then for Aquarius ascendant, this will be Saturn in the 5th house, will be Saturn in Gemini. And this will be the 12th and 1st house ruler in the 5th house. So, excuse me. So it could be that they like to invest in foreign things, or they could be that it's something they meet their partner in far away lands, or they could be that in an ashram, at a yoga class, but meditating, or it could just be that they had their child abroad. And then also there is going to be obviously this is also house of expenses. Having a child, education can cause issues with expenses and losses, or they could go abroad also for their education. That creates some losses too. And then obviously from there Saturn is aspecting 7th house, which will be Leo. And this is obviously not friendly sign, but basically speaking, they look for somebody who has got this confidence, this solar person, and their partner will be. They're looking for somebody who has got a lot of integrity, because that's Leo. And Leos have just this presence. They don't even have to do anything. When you walk into the room, people know there's somebody Leo there. And obviously from there is also aspecting the 11th house, and so their friends could be from the same religion, same university, or same, met them when they were traveling, or there's some from the same religion, belief system, that kind of thing. And also from there is also aspect in the second house, which will be Pisces. So this is 12th house ruler in the second house, so aspect in the second house. So this could be, these people will just be like addicted to spending money, because, you know, this is also Pisces is a sign that's quite like unstable, because it's water sign and it's house of natural, house of loss. So they're constantly spending money on, so they could lose money because of their education, they could lose money because of you know, they had a child and they're constantly spending money on their child. They can't save money because it's also their second house. It's also the 12th house of natural. So you really got to try hard not to, you know, but obviously if the dispositor, if Jupiter is well placed, then it should be absolutely fine, or aspect in it. And then we have Pisces. And then for Pisces, 5th house will be Saturn, which is like 11th and 12th house ruler in Cancer. The most brilliant thing is that it's aspecting Capricorn, actually protecting your 11th house against elder sibling, friends, and they will be really, really high achieving friends, career minded and great status. Having Cancer Saturn, it gives you kind of a legacy for life, if you like, because what we'll do is it could be that it just makes one quite famous. It might not feel great. It could also take you away from your homeland for a bit as well. But generally speaking, though, this is having children could make them fearful, you know, that kind of thing. They worry about if they have any sort of speculations, you know, and if they start dating somebody, they kind of worry a lot, you know, because it's obviously a sensitive sign, but it gets better with time. It's from there is aspect in the 7th house, which is Virgo. So they're looking for somebody who's quite intellectual, quite practical, service-oriented person. And obviously the other thing is also aspect in the 2nd house, which will be where it's debilitated. So they probably are not going to be that great about sort of saving money, and they could have like fallouts with the family, that kind of thing going on, because it's debilitated there and it's naturally, you know, a sign of a malefic too. But yeah, but otherwise they could gain quite a lot. So, but you know, whether or not they can save it is another thing. So they have to work at being able to do that. But because they are the 5th house is a house of nurture and everything else, the more nurturing they are towards their kids, the better it will be for their gains too, and the other houses that is Saturn is aspecting. That's it from me. I'll see you next time. Thank you very much for watching.